All right, we are now live for another episode of Canadian Corner. This is Season 10 NGS Division A East in a matchup between the Tricky Gooses and the Wholesome Halfwits. I am Liddell, joined by my co-caster here, Feldroff. Feldroff, say hi.
Hey, oh, say, can you see? It's your U.S. correspondent, Feldroth.
Yeah. Um, we've casted quite a few games recently, actually, and a lot of Gooses action. Um, and we have a matchup between Wholesome Halfwits, as I said, and Tricky Gooses tonight. And both of these teams have kind of struggled out of the gate, you could say, in this Division A. Both Gooses upgrading from Division B East to Division A East this season. And I'm not sure exactly the history of Wholesome Halfwits, but they do have two members that were definitely in Division B East last season in Key and Durka Black. So, Fel, if you could kind of break down exactly the standings as they stand right now.
Yeah, so right now there are 11 teams in A East. I don't know why I said it right now to the 11 teams. That's probably not going to change. But Tricky Gooses is at ninth place with 4 matches played, and Wholesome Halfwits is in 11th place, last place, with 3 matches played, 2 matches reported. Wholesome Halfwits and who was it?
Careless Badgers.
Careless Badgers. Better report your games. Just saying. So a little shout out there. Yeah, but they're in last place. They've won 1 match out of a total of 7. So they have a lot to prove here coming into this. Tricky Gooses having won 2 games, and that 2-game win was a domination, and having lost the rest. So they sit at 3 points to 1 point on the standings. So both being sort of like a bubble team for playoffs, even from like an early standings perspective. They're both looking to potentially compete for the last spot or in the playoffs. Now, there's a lot of the season left to go, so things could change pretty rapidly. But the implications are right now that this could be a pretty important game in terms of competing for that spot. So I think both teams have a lot to prove tonight.
Yeah, I don't want to get too hyperbolic out of the gate, but you could argue that this is as close to a must-win game for each of these teams as far as a must-win game can be in Week 3 of NGS. Because you think when you're trying to climb in the standings, you absolutely need to beat the teams right below you or right above you. That probably goes without saying, but I think Wholesome Halfwits hasn't actually had the hardest schedule up to this point. I think Careless Badgers is a middle-of-the-pack team. I think, I think Regen Phoenix is a middle-of-the-pack team. Whereas Gooses has been all over the place. They got Beef Boys, which we're not really sure where they stand right now. But they've also gotten teams like Party Time, which are Division A veterans. And so, it's a bit all over the place, and so we don't really know where Gooses stand based on who their opponents have been.
Yeah, totally. So they both have played Beef Boys. And I think that's the only one they actually have shared that they've both played. So Tricky Gooses actually 2-0'd Beef Boys. It's their only domination. Wholesome Halfwits lost 0-2. But watching some of Beef Boys' games, we've seen a kind of a varied level of skill, or not skill so much as delivery from Beef Boys. So kind of an unknown. So going into this match, if you're using it as like a slide rule to understand which team's it's going to do better, it'll be a hard thing to predict.
Also, just before I go over the draft screen, real quick, we are going to Cursed Hollow. It was picked by the Gooses. Towers of Doom was banned out, while Sky was banned out by the Gooses. Meanwhile, Hanamura and Braxis, the 2-lane maps, Wholesome Halfwits does not want to see them. As I go over into our draft screen here.
Wholesome Halfwits have deigned to, they won the coin toss, chose to go first pick, so Tricky Gooses took them to Cursed, and they already see that Tricky Gooses plays some unusual things. Tricky living up to their name, so they're banning the Samuro out, just don't want to deal with it. And looking at their stats for the last games that they've played, Wholesome Halfwits like to go with really consistent, just reliable comps that are very predictable, but very strong and easy to execute. So I think we could expect to see something consistent from them along those lines, and but they could surprise us, so we'll see.
Um, yeah, we see. I think these teams know each other quite well. Key, on the member of the Wholesome Halfwits, actually knows the Gooses quite well. They play together a lot. I think they had a Heroes Lounge season together. So this is quite a friendly matchup, but that also means the bans are going to be quite personal, because there's a kind of intimate knowledge of what each team plays.
Yeah, so going ahead and banning out ETC, and you see Garrosh banned out against their team. Probably expect to see a tank picked up kind of soon. Diablo's a very contested pick these days. And I think with a Garrosh ban, you could expect to see a Diablo or Mei. Garrosh being probably one of the only counters to those two heroes. They instead decide to go for the Diva, which hasn't been nerfed yet and has been, pretty consistently strong. I don't know what her win rate is in coordinated play like NGS. I think it's probably a bit lower than you see in standard HOTS play, but I think she's still really strong and really good here. So
Yeah, I think
probably see some value.
she has an interesting role on this map, just based on there's not a ton of wave clear need, but you do have the bomb, which can be a great zoning tool as you try to secure a cursed tribute.
Yeah. On the side of Tricky Gooses, you see Greymane being picked up, a great wave clear and a great camp clear hero on this map. Able to pick up the camps at the right times, get him pushing right when objective is going to spawn, right when you want them to. Tehran gives you tons of vision and control from that vision, throwing out those owls. And you see the Diablo picked up, which we kind of suspected with the Garrosh ban and the meta tanks kind of going away.
Yeah, I like the Diablo pickup. A lot of the tanks you would be afraid of on Diablo are kind of out of the picture at this point. Kind of interesting to see what tank Gooses goes with now. May's still up, but if Wholesome Halfwits bans it here, then it's quite a tank choke, I would argue, on all the meta choices.
Yeah. Once again, locking down some healers. Tricky Gooses is saying that, we want to force you on a healer that we can predict, even though you're comfortable with it. I think we might see Key on something like an Ana. That's typically what he plays when Stukov and Anduin is down. And if Tricky Gooses is good enough to know and expect that, then you either can see Key switching to something he plays less often in NGS, or picking on something that they could have predicted. So we'll see kind of what happens on that front.
Yeah, they also love kind of blow up cheese comps, and I think they may be trying to force Key into picking an Ana, which is weak to those kind of comps. So it could be a kind of like funneling into making Key pick a comfort pick, but at that same time they can kind of predict that comfort pick coming ahead of time.
Yeah, I really like the Thrall pickup. The Mei pickup's predictable based on the tank choke they've kind of had going and what's meta right now. Garrosh being really the only counter in Diablo, Mei being fine in Diablo. I think that's a great pick. Thrall is really good, gives some percent damage that's really reliable, that can help with the Diablo burn even as he grabs souls. Also totally fine on this map with the Greymane pickup, especially because he can sit in lanes and he can grab soak, no big deal, but it's not super wave clear heavy. And if you need camp clear, the Greymane goes. There's the Ana, just like we predicted. Ooh.
Kira, that's a bit of spice. That might be the
spicy.
That might be the spiciest thing Wholesome Halfwits has done so far this season. So, it's interesting. It's a strong front line. I guess maybe they're just trying to add frontline numbers to frontline to kind of help the Ana out and prevent too many Greymanes getting past them.
Yeah, I think Kira is in an unusual spot. She's one of the strongest early game heroes. So I think you could see with the Diablo and Akira that Wholesome Halfwits are going for those early wins on objectives, try to get the first 3, get an advantage that Tricky Gooses just can't come back from. But if you look at Tricky Goose's draft as well, all their heroes are strong out of the gate also. So I don't think that it's going to be a roll. I think it's going to be an even fight from the beginning. And with the medallions all being available across the board now, I think Kira gets less value. If you're unstoppable while she's rotating, she just drops right off. So Mei's already a bad target with 2 unstoppables on the trait and the medallion, and everyone else having a medallion makes that difficult as well.
I think also the Kira, though, may take some heat off of the Diva, which if there's too much heat on Diva, she just gets burned before a bomb comes up, and then she can get picked once a max down. So they may be going for a triple front line. Each one of the front line takes an equal amount of heat, and it kind of spreads it all around. And they also all have self-sustain. So if you're splitting up the damage between all three of them, the Ana is putting heals in from a long way away, and they're also self-sustaining themselves. So I think that's the kind of ideal setup, is with all three of them taking an equal amount of damage.
Yeah, absolutely.
Prepare yourself for battle.
Show talents. We'll see if there's any weird builds coming out. I don't know if there's really a potential for any weird builds with the characters we have.
Yeah.
We have teleport at 1 from Ming, which I have no idea if that's spicy or not.
Pretty normal.
Yeah. Alright, I'm gonna announce the Tricky Gooses real quick as we start off. We have Carpe Diem on the Tyrande. We have Nanani on the Greymane. We have Volcoma, who's a sub for this game, on the Mei. We have Duck on the Gul'dan. And we have Wise on the Thrall.
And on the left side for the blue team, you have Skathar on Diva, TKS Tanksta on Diablo, Crooked Smile on Kira, Darker Black on Li Ming, Key on Ana. Ladies and gentlemen, you have the Wholesome Halfwits.
We see Wholesome Halfwits breaking off early. No interest in a 5v5 fight mid. So they're laning up immediately.
Yeah, I think looking at the talents, you see some pretty normal stuff. Rolling Thunder from the Thrall wants to get the immediate spell damage value with the extra percent damage against the Diablo. Owl build from Tron, which is really strong on this map. We could even see her get as much as highest damage with the owls being thrown, scouting camps and stuff like that. Got to rotate down on the Thrall as Diablo goes in, goes to the body block, but ends up flipping Wise out. I have to think that's a mistake if you position for a body block, but Wise just walks away. He's like, thank you very much.
They may want to get Diva out of this matchup, because I believe the Thrall is a good counter to her.
Oh, yeah.
Which looks like they're actually doing as they send Diva mid.
Diva,
go ahead.
Yeah, go ahead. No. Yeah.
I was going to say, Diva is really good at camp clears. I'm surprised they're not putting her on these bruiser camps, although they just leashed them because the Owl of Sight was flown in there.
Yeah, Diva doesn't have a great matchup this game. She really suffers after the changes to people that can just eat her health away, because the amount of energy she stacks based on her health lost has been reduced. So she doesn't want to lane against Gul'dan. She doesn't want to lane against Greymane. She doesn't want to lane against Thrall. I think the best she has to do is to rotate away. And you look at Thrall here, he just chunks her down to almost nothing, and she gets very little energy from it. So she's going to, hopefully get some auto attacks off and build that before the first objective and have a little bit of room to breathe.
Yeah, I'm surprised they're not putting her on jungle because of that reason. I think she does camps pretty well, and she can do it solo and self-sustain during it.
In top lane, we see her rotate on the Kira. Kira rotates in and around, but gets engaged back in, misses her D out, and then ends up dying for it. Just shy. She looked like she grazed that wall, but it didn't latch on. So she was very close to escaping, but ultimately just picked. They're also holding their camp until they hear the tribute cap. They'll probably wait until about 15 seconds till the tribute's up. And if they're good, they're sending the Greymane mid to go ahead and start clearing so that their camp gets free value. You see Wholesome Halfwits pick theirs up a little bit too early. It's going to hit the wall, it's going to crash. Tricky Gooses are going to be able to clear it and then cap theirs without even having to worry about it.
They will get top value, but they will be late coming to this first tribute, and Darker Black is half health, quarter mana. So that will be a bit of a hindrance as this first tribute comes up.
Looks like they're going to contest. Thrall rotating aggressively, kind of around, sees the Ana. Ana's probably looking for a sleep. Ming missing her initial poke, but it's going to hit the orb. Diablo dives in. Kira looking for it on the back line, but ends up just being isolated. Wise also being isolated, but it's going to get out a little bit better. Thrall just heals himself up pretty well. See a pretty standard fight now, both coming from the same direction. Bomb being up for Diva. She's probably going to rotate in a little bit and then throw it. She's pretty low. She ends up throwing the bomb out and is going to use that as a zoning for a little while. Wise is going to be able... Oh, gets slept. Maybe that gives them the tribute. No, it does not. It's going to be a long fight. We see mid getting a lot of value, top also getting a lot of value. Crooked Smile is getting very low. Wise also very low on the Thrall. Is going to end up just barely surviving with his heal ticks with the from Carpe DM helping as well. This is just going back and forth. Kira ends up going down. Valkymer maybe going in and taking too much damage. I'm not sure what was to gain there with them not channeling. I think the best thing that both teams can do right now is kind of stand back. Tricky Gooses may have looked to... Oh, they still have an owl up. To poke on both of these teams are going to be really great. Darker Black low on mana, and not having a mana regen talent, that's going to be hard for her to actually stay and engage. They leave her to channel, which is a better idea. Owl still is back up, so it's going to poke again. Diablo's going to position for this cap, and I think the Tricky Gooses have finally decided that, hey, this is enough. We have to clear top, and mid stop getting value.
We do see value. I mean, we do see Wholesome Halfwits picking up that first tribute, but they do give up a lot in terms of XP with that fight taking a while. And I would think I like the scaling of Gooses more. So you kind of would like to see more of an assertive early win from Wholesome Halfwits, because that might come to bite them later in this game.
Yeah, Tricky Gooses definitely has a better scaling team. Thrall has excellent scale. Greymane just has an excellent curve of viability throughout the entire game length. Ming will do okay on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. Diablo, obviously, his is more based around his soul length, and you see him going W build, which is expecting long, sustained fights, which I think is probably a good call. And it lets him focus on positioning rather than continued auto attacks or Qs. It looks like they're going to just give this tribute and opt for a boss play bottom while Tricky Gooses just gets their first trip top. I don't think Tricky Gooses even knows, although the owl is being sent and scouted. They see it now, but it's already over halfway done. They're probably just going to start on their boss, which it looks like they've done. And with the Greymane, they're probably going to burn it pretty quick, and knowing where they are bottom with the owl.
Yeah, they're going to burn this plenty of time, and so it was a good... I like the play by Wholesome Halfwits, but they're going to end up not getting a ton of value because it's a boss trade and a curse give. And this next tribute's top, which actually favors Wholesome Halfwits a little bit, as they're able to clear and fight for the tribute at the same time.
Sending Gul'dan bottom to clear the boss. I'm not sure that's the best thing. I probably would have liked Greymane a little bit better. Oh, gets knocked back, almost gets hit by the boss stun and gets zoned a little bit. Meanwhile, the tribute's almost coming up, and Tricky Gooses have fully positioned, but with Key and Darker Black in a great spot to just delay forever.
Oh, we see the Carpe dodging the...
Well, Snowball going out, zoning the Diablo and the Kira, but Carpe was able to channel it just in time. Full combo going out on the Mei. She's able to E right away. Crooked Smile getting caught out on the Kira as she tries to use her ult to finish off Valkymer to no success.
So we do see a lot more damage coming out on bottom fort than top fort, but we now have a curse tribute advantage 2-1 for the side of Gooses, which you like to think their position... They have the upper hand right now in the game. They also have half a level of XP advantage as well.
Yeah, I think these curse positions have favored Wholesome Halfwits just a tad with their ability to get this top siege camp, have it pushing during this next objective bottom. I just hope they don't cap it right away so that it actually gets... Well, they're going to cap it right away. I would have preferred to see them hold it until the countdown starts, or a little bit the way through, but it ended up starting pretty quickly afterwards. And they'll get bruisers with Tricky Gooses waiting on their side of bruisers and clearing bottom currently.
We probably will see a 5v5 fight anyways, though, just because it is cursed, and I think Gooses would like to secure a third tribute here and really get some macro value going.
Yeah, absolutely. We see Tricky Gooses posturing up. This is really one that Wholesome Halfwits has to win. Diva going in aggressively, probably has to use her bomb pretty early. She ends up using it and steps out and away. Separated the Tricky Gooses team, and that's going to be Wise blown up very quickly. We see Diva going out in the snowball, but it's just not enough. And that's going to be Tricky Gooses giving this tribute over to Wholesome Halfwits. This is exactly what Wholesome Halfwits needed to maintain this in the game. I think Tricky should just stop trying to poke at this point and let them have it. Really no value for them to continue to contest, and Duck's already in top lane defending this siege camp push.
With level 10s underway, we didn't quite announce all of them. I'm looking at them quickly. I don't see anything surprising off the bat. We see Earthquake, which probably has to do with the setting up the Greymane auto attacks. Curse Bullets, not a surprise there. And then Horrify, one of the best ults in the game. and then Avalanche. So I would say nothing surprising on the side of Gooses.
Yeah, absolutely. On the side of Wholesome, you see missiles. You see APOC from the Diablo. We see what is that? Final Strike from the Kira, looking for to secure those final kills that they couldn't quite get otherwise. Wave of Force from the Li Ming and the Nano Boost from the Ana.
We see a pick
Anything you didn't
coming out,
expect to see?
mid there on the Thrall. No, I mean Wave of Force is a bit interesting, although I'm not a Ming expert by any means.
She seems to be going Calamity build, which makes a lot of sense with Wave of Force. That's a counter pick on the Diva bottom. Once again, she just gets burned. She's not able to escape, and then she pops out in pilot form and is super vulnerable. So
yeah, that's
that
a
just got
really
trapped away.
unfortunate pick because Diva will be late coming to this tribute now, and Thrall is already up. If he avoids that bush, which it looks like he's wise to it, pardon the pun. Wasn't intentional. I really apologize for that. So we do see a 5v4, but Gooses needs to make something happen now as Diva is walking back to the fight.
Ming with great poke. Ana also there, just sitting in her extended range form, able to poke with, and she's saving that sleep for the engage. Diva's back in the fight. This is now a 5v5. Both teams looking for that full fight. Nani zoning the Ming at the bottom. Diva going in pretty far. The Avalanche going out, zoning the Kira and the Diablo, but they're back in the fight now with really no value to that zoning. Kira taking a lot of damage and gets feared and ends up going down, and Diablo is now out of position. He's looking to escape. Diva goes in to take some heat off. She gets her bomb up just in time to be able to use it for zoning, but ends up not pressing the button and gets her mech destroyed instead. She's going to get frozen there, and along with Key, and that's going to be 2 kills on the side of Tricky Gooses, followed by Diva, followed by Ana. Can they pick up the Ming? No, she gets out, but that is a full curse with so many down, and they're going aggressively for this camp, and they're looking for value all over the place.
Yeah, that fight changed real quickly. We see why Horrify is one of the best ults in the game, especially against a melee-heavy team in Wholesome Halfwits, because it sends the back line running away, and it sends the front line running towards you, and that's what we saw with the Kira running into their team, getting picked, and getting picked again there top lane.
Yeah, just diving right past that wall and getting right on her. Yeah, I totally agree. It's basically the same duration as a maybe a little bit shorter than a Mosh, and it moves people, so a little bit different. It allows your assassins to position a little bit safer and ends up getting them about the same value, if not the same like consistency that a Mosh would get from all the team members staying still. So definitely a ton of value. We see already 2 forts down and a keep that have been lost by and taken away from Wholesome Halfwits. Knowing that the curse is just about to finish, Tricky Gooses have decided to just go in and take their boss top right. If they're able to get it done quickly enough, they'll be able to contest bottom as well. And now Wholesome Halfwits has sniffed that out, so they're going to go ahead and try to do their boss as well, and just kind of see how this shakes out in timing, having already finished their top boss for Tricky Gooses.
This is going to be really close. They do have the Diva bomb up to zone once it's up, but they just don't have a traditional AA that can burn this boss that fast.
RFI is up to walk them off. The Owl went out on the... Yeah, and then we see Earthquake. We see teams on both sides. Unstoppable coming out in the May. The Fear comes out, and that's their boss. They weren't able to dive back on quick enough. Diva once again not able to use the bomb, and that's a Diva, a Diablo, a Kira, and it's a full mega kill team wipe on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. Tricky Goose is looking to get as much value as they can, already pushing in on the keep, ignoring the wall. They're like, hey, can we get to core quick enough? Can we just end this with a 3-level advantage and a boss from top already pushing? So I think I'm going to call game 1.
Yeah, I'm gonna lock that in. GG. I think it's pretty safe as it's getting burnt quite quickly.
6%, it could go. Oh no, I guess they won. GG's, both sides.
Yeah, that was quite a dominant win. It was quite equal up to the first curse, and then it just snowballed out of control from there.
Well, yeah, with Avalanche, it will tend to snowball.
We have the stats screen up now. For those who also watched the Gooses matchup with Beef Boys, which we casted, that was an almost identical game to when Gooses beat Beef Boys on Cursed Hollow. We saw the exact thing happen where they had the first curse, they got their value, they broke off probably earlier than most other teams would, got their own boss, ripped it because they built a team of AA who can just rip apart a boss, and then race down to the bottom boss, wipe the other team, and take that boss. And that's really just kind of I think if you're playing Gooses, it's almost an automatic ban on Cursed Hollow, from what I've seen.
Yeah, it's they got a lot of value. Wholesome Halfwits really relying on those early wins with the team that they drafted and just not able to secure it. I really don't think Diva, as good and as strong as she is currently, provides that value with the comp that Wholesome Halfwits is going for. If you're really relying on winning the first 3 objectives, getting the first curse, hopefully doing it right around the 10 mark so that you're not relying on the power dynamic shift that happens at 10 when ultimates are picked up, then you have to go for a team that can really execute, get the kills, win cleanly and quickly. And I just didn't see that from them. Maybe if we'd seen an Imperious, which would have sacrificed wave clear on Wholesome Halfwits side or something else, we would have maybe seen a different game.
Yeah, and we're just kind of waiting on what the decision is in terms of next map. What are your opinions? Do you think it's a first pick meta, as some are saying, or do you think it's map pick is equally viable?
I do think it's a first pick meta. I think it kind of just depends on what the other team plays that you have to ban. If there's something that you have to ban that the other team is really competent in that you just don't want to face, whether that be a TLV, something strange like that, or a Chen or a Samuro or whatever the thing is that you're scared over there, Kel'Thuzad, that kind of shifts it a little bit. It can move away from a first pick meta at that point. But just a clean game, totally clean slate, not knowing any information, with the fact that there are very clear, I'd say, dividing lines in tank power, that gives that first pick meta some strength. So you saw the ETC being banned out there, you see the Garrosh being banned out, and that kind of leaves the only other 2 meta tanks being the Diablo and the Mei. So both those getting picked up, but if you can kind of control that handoff, then you're in a good position.
All right, we are going to Battlefield of Eternity from Game 2. I'm just finding out here whether it was a... I just assumed it was a Wholesome Halfwits map pick, just because they linked it in the chat. But yeah, it is. I'm confirming that it was a Wholesome Halfwits pick. So they're going to a 2-lane map. Less of a macro map in BOE, more of a team fight map, and basically built around whoever has the most damage, who can burn down the immortals faster. So I think, based on how the last game went, I don't know if there's a clear advantage going into this map, like team fight wise, because I felt like the early game team fights were relatively equal between the 2 teams. So we'll see. Just gonna ready up here.
Yeah, interesting. We've seen the profile pictures for the Tricky Gooses was the Carbot Stukov at this point. Now they've switched to the spooky red overtoned facial mugshot of Stukov, and I think that's a little play towards Key, who loves playing Stukov, probably his most played healer, and just really. Playing some mind games there.
Okay. What do you expect to see from these 2 teams, team comp wise? Do you think Gooses, after kind of taking a dominant game 1, do you think they're gonna kind of go for something memey, or they're gonna go more traditional like they did in the first match and kind of just hope that they can just take what they took from game 1, take the strong team fights, the nice combos they got, and just kind of carry that over?
I mean, I think Tricky tends to like more team fight aggressive comps, and this is definitely a map that lends itself to that. But I think that both teams have kind of 2 strategies going into this. They can either choose a comp that's designed around fighting the enemy team and defending objective, getting an advantage, and then falling back to win the immortal, or they can focus on, just kind of kiting, walking backwards, and burning the immortal, and that could look at a lot of ranged poke, that could look at a lot of AA, that could look at a lot of monster burn with talents like Executioner and Nature's Culling and some others. So I think we'll start to see some strategies evolve here as you see the first half of their drafts picked up.
We see the target ban on Key once again, and an equal target ban going back. Samo, I don't think has been played. No, it has been played once by Gooses, but I believe they lost that game. But Wholesome Halfwits still does not want to see it. Sam, even if you beat them, is very annoying to play against, and was just you don't want your heart rate going up unnecessarily.
Yeah, that's a good way to put it. He just kind of has this elusive quality that just makes him extremely frustrating. And unless you're able to just CC all the clones and eliminate the guessing game, he can just be an extremely painful hero to face, especially when you know the other team's proficient. And that kind of goes back to saying what I was saying earlier, which is that first pick or map pick meta. That first pick meta is nullified a little bit when you have to ban some characters you just don't want to see on the enemy team. And I think you see Wholesome Halfwit saying, okay, we don't want the Diva. That's not going to be our first pick or in our next picks. So we're just going to ban it and eliminate Battlefield or Tricky Uses from being able to pick it on this map.
Predictable first pick here by Duck on the Reyna. I mean, you're just going to get that awesome burn on the Immortal. Nice wave clear as well as far as auto attackers go. Pretty high priority pick on this map.
Yeah, and you see really two non-surprising picks from Wholesome Halfwits as well. Artanis with amateur opponents just able to burn the Immortal, and Ming's able to put really consistent damage on it with Q build, as we see Darker Black is very confident with, and is able to put that damage in. But look at that team.
That I would not have expected at all. Rexar has good auto attack damage as far as bruises go, so still okay Immortal burn. And has a nice zoning capability with the bear. But then Alaric, not someone you see a lot on this map, or in general these days. So that's a surprising pick for sure.
Yeah, Alaric, someone you love to have on your team, you hate to see on the opposite team, just because of the unpredictability that he adds into the fights. He gets a great pull and a silence, and there's nothing really you can do against that. You have to just play around the potential for him to be able to do that at any given point. And so I think we'll see that'll change the draft for a little bit on the Wholesome Halfwits as they try to pick people that are going to be able to avoid that or be able to sustain the fact that Alarac's going to be displacing them and making them unable to respond for a couple seconds with that silence. Phoenix, I'm not sure is able to do that. He kind of relies on his ability to teleport, but he may be able to just kind of hug around and outmaneuver the Alarac, so we'll see how that goes. And with the Ana picked up again on the side of Wholesome Halfwits.
Interestingly, normally it's a arms race to pick up a meta tank these days, and that's not happening in this match at all. We didn't see a main tank ban until the third ban on Garrosh, and we see why.
We won't see a main tank. We'll see main tank Rexar?
We see here...
main tank Misha?
Main tank Uber?
Main tank Misha, maybe. I mean, there's no reason to have Rexar top necessarily. We see Tyrael being picked up on the side of Wholesome Halfwits. So non-traditional is the easiest way to put this comp. We see Duck actually going back to what I guess we should say is the tank build, the tank slot for him. As Uther, Balcomer switching to the Rainer from the May last game. And this is very unusual. I think both teams have very, very interesting win conditions. With the Ana and the Phoenix, you could see a really interesting ultimate coming out of Phoenix doing a lot of damage to the whole team that's boosted. I don't think you have a ton of slows on the team to pair with it, so having someone like a Thrall other than Artanis who's just going to do an Earthquake and really turn on the Phoenix is something that you normally see traditionally with that kind of Ana and Phoenix burst ult combo. But a nano boosted Li Ming is super scary as well, and with only a single healer on Uther, you have to think that if they're able to just put some consistent damage on Tricky Gooses, then that damage is going to stick a lot cleaner and let Li Ming clean up if they're able to get it that long.
Yeah, we also see Artanis has the huge value with his AoE blind ult with a double AA on the side of Gooses, plus Rexar is a lot of AA based damage. Alarak is kind of a hybrid between the two. So we'll see how that ult plays. It could completely shut down any kind of burst or engage that Gooses tries to do post level 10.
Totally. All right, you wanna walk us in with introductions?
Yeah. On the side of the Tricky Gooses, we have Nanani on the Alarak. We have Duck on the Uther. We have Valkymer on the Rainer, and we have Carpe Diem on the Rexar. We also have Wise on the Lunara. I didn't see that.
Oh, totally, yeah. On the side of the blue team, we have TKS Tanksta on Tyrael. We have Skathar on Artanis, Key on Ana, Darker Black on Li Ming, Crooked Smile on Phoenix. It's the blue team. It's the Wholesome Halfwits. And we see the whole team kind of rotate, say, hey, can we get this Artanis? Is he going to step up? Is he going to expect it? And it looks like he's stepping up. And so they're engaging with the stun and the full combo. Is he going to walk away in time? He is.
That's one drawback to not having a mage, is you don't have the burst damage there. But it does force him to well, as they do a 4-man rotate bottom.
This is not what I expected. Normally you expect a team to kind of stay top and get that value, especially since we saw Wholesome Halfwits kind of cave and say, yeah, they do have the better race, we should go up there a little bit. But instead they just rotate up to kind of catch each other off guard in mid lane and say, oh, you're here as well. I guess we'll acknowledge that fact real quick. Good double sleep from Ana. And then they both end up going bottom lane. So we see the pull and silence out on the Phoenix, the stun to follow up, but he's just going to walk away with Misha getting unfortunately burned. Poor Misha. That's animal cruelty right there.
We see, I think Rexa, depending on what build he goes, but Misha's quite weak early, so if it's main take Misha, that's going to take a while to turn on until some of the talents can be picked to kind of improve a health pool and make him more tanky.
Yeah, we'll probably see Uther and Misha just kind of sharing that role a little bit, but with the fact that they only picked one healer, and so Uther is really solo heals, that's going to kind of maybe play in Wholesome Halfwit's favor. I think the best thing they can do is try to kind of burn that mana on Uther, do some sustained damage on the whole team, which Uther can't heal very well. See an engage on Darker Black on Li Ming, and she gets pulled, but it ends up turning really quickly as they don't get the pick, and then they push Tricky Gooses back, and Ming doing that pretty consistent damage. Duck being pretty low, can't step up. And so they're just going to kind of, like I said, take the health pools down kind of across the board, which forces Tricky to back up until Uther's able to catch up with that healing.
Yeah, if Gooses does not get a pick immediately, they're immediately going to start losing that fight. As we saw there, as they didn't get the pick on Ming, and then they lost a ton of value in terms of Ming just poking them down.
Well, like I mentioned very early on, you have all the standard picks you expect to see here on this map. You have Exterminator being picked up by Ranner, you have Nature's Calling being picked up at 4 by Lunara, and you also have Amateur Opponent being picked up from Artanis, and you see a Q build, Li Ming. Normally, I don't really see that Charged Blast, extra auto attack damage on the Li Ming. People normally try to go for the orb resets at that level, even if they're going Q build, just to get that little bit more consistent damage. But with the Immortals coming out, we'll kind of see what their strategy is going in. Are they going to go for the team fights? And we see Tricky Gooses picking up their camp. Or are they just going to go for Immortal Burn? Darker Black kind of getting the head start. Tricky Gooses being late to that camp. They're going to get a few extra shots on here pretty quick.
We see Artanis just hacking away with the Amateur Opponent, getting quite a lot of damage out early. It's a 4-man defense bottom.
Ooh, silence on the Phoenix. Not able to secure a kill. I think this will change late game, but those kills are just not coming through for the either team.
We see the race breaking out, and I would say, yeah, it's the advantage for Wholesome Halfwits going into. Oh, no, never mind. Advantage for Gooses heading into the halftime.
However, it's important to note that only Artanis was on that side, but with Exterminator and Nature's Culling, I think that Tricky will have this in hand, although we see a surprising amount of DPS with the whole team there right away, and Wholesome Halfwits ends up taking it just purely from the fact that they had the cognizance to have their entire team ready to go on the Immortal just in time.
Nanani just missing a couple combos recently, which has really been the difference in not securing kills. To his credit, though, Li Ming is a really hard target to hit with her small hitbox and her ability to jump away.
Smart play from Tricky Gooses here. They had a Lunara in the top lane off laning to start out with, but they kept Rexar bottom, saying, hey, we need a lot of really good Immortal Clear top, and Rexar's not going to add a lot, and he can do fine solo laning as well, obviously. So we're going to leave him bottom.
Yeah, I really think level 10s changes this a little bit. Level 10s usually favor the burst team or the pick team, which is kind of what Gooses is going for. And really, honestly, the first Immortal did not get much value there, as we almost see a pretty much equal trade top lane in terms of the health of the two forts.
Yeah, I think these engagements are going to rely on good damage going out on Tricky Gooses, but they're going to take the camp just in time. These engagements are going to really rely on Wholesome Halfwits being able to survive the initial volley from Tricky Gooses and then being able to stabilize and re-engage. And if they can do that really well and kind of manage that engagement, we see a full kind of burst combo going out on Phoenix. He dies pretty much right away. If they're able to manage those engagements, then they'll be able to outlast Tricky Goose's value and see themselves winning this game. However, if they are not able to and they get picked really cleanly to start out with, if Tricky Gooses is able to execute on their kind of pick comp, then we'll see a clean sweep in the other direction.
We see bottom lane, Misha was killed. She's coming back now. But, you know, Artan is taking a lot of damage to get that kill, and Rexo is going to be able to pick up this bottom camp as a reward for forcing Artanis out of lane.
Artanis chose to Hearth instead of picking up those minions, which was picked up by the Phoenix instead, which is totally fine, but I was a little worried there for a second. You see the race kind of going out from both sides. Wholesome Halfwit said, well, we won last time, let's just try to win again. And they're doing fine damage. They're actually kind of matching Tricky Gooses. When almost dead even, we see only really an 800-point difference here, and pretty much.
Gooses was a little bit late coming to theirs, though. So we'll see if that makes the difference in the second half here.
I think it totally will. I think we have a mistake on Wholesome Halfwits trying to race them fully. As close as it is, was with only 1,078 damage left for them to complete. Tricky Gooses with their comp is just too much, too quick. We see a lot of damage going on the Artanis. He's going to try to walk away with the Ana just barely healing him, but that's going to be a full disengage as Tricky Gooses tries to chase and then doesn't secure it, so they leave it off. With Tricky Gooses pushing, they've decided to leave Lunara going top, which is going to provide them a lot of pushing value with Nature's Culling, with the rest of the team top, with the bottom with the double tank with Misha and Uther. Double tank Misha and Uther, not with what I'd ever thought I'd say.
Rexa does provide a little more gank potential with the stun bottom lane, so that's probably what they're going for.
Just see that almost come out and not quite securing that Li Ming kill, instead getting a double kill, sort of, 1.5 on the side of Wholesome Halfwits against Tricky Gooses with the Rainer pickup and the Misha from the Rexar.
You're still happy to get that full fort bottom. Now you're going to have a bit of macro pressure. There's not as much of a rush to get to your Immortal anymore. You can kind of defend and let the lane passively push itself out, as we see an attempt at a top gank here. And that does come through for the side of the Phoenix. You would like to have seen maybe a call out there in comms, as all 4 of the Gooses did disappear.
You would think they would be like shouting it from the hills, and I'm sure that the Artanis brought that up. You see quite the pickup on the material there. He ends up exploding on Wise, so getting just a little bit of a cooldown minimalization, but with a camp there, I kind of expected.
Yeah, we do see a camp invade here. Fel, it does sound like your mic is cutting out a little bit, so I'll just take over a little bit until we get that all sorted out. We do see a Bruiser stolen here on the taking Wholesome Halfwits Bruiser, and kind of really forcing and asserting themselves on the map right now.
Yeah, totally.
We're hearing you again, by the way. So.
Are you okay?
Yeah, I think it's your end, but
no, I heard you disconnect and reconnect like 3 times, but
Oh, okay. Well, that's
Maybe it was me.
Discord issue because my stream has been going fine.
Well, it could have been me too.
Alright, well, it's something.
We see we see, this is the first time we've seen ults go out. Phoenix actually choosing Planet Cracker with the stun by the Tyrael, but doesn't end up securing the kill. It gets a triple silence by the Artanis. And we see both teams just kind of walking away. Nothing really happening with ults coming out from Rexar. But three ults coming out from the side of Wholesome Halfwits. Disintegrates back up, but Nano Boost and Planet Cracker are both down. And Judgment from Tyrael. So I think if this turns into a team fight, then we'll see advantage Tricky Gooses. Tyrael going down really quickly. Most of the team can't heal on the side of Tricky Gooses, but that doesn't matter when Wise is poking poison right down the throat of Li Ming over there. She's going to have to back up into Hearth while camps are pushing from top and bottom. Really not a good place to see yourself in if you're Wholesome Halfwits, knowing that you have to defend both lanes and you haven't been able to get any damage on the Immortal, and you're going to see a full health Immortal hitting what looks to be top lane after this is secured.
What do you think of the Divine Shield coming from Ufa here?
I think it makes a ton of sense. I think you already know you're light on healing. And if you have been having success with your ability to just gank people really quickly, which they have, we see 4 kills to 1 kill advantage Tricky Gooses. I think you want to see that and just maximize your advantage. However, if you're just blown up like that, it's not going to matter, and you can't get close enough to use your Divine Shield, so they're going to walk right away. They're able to clear bottom lane. They're able to see top lane, and with Tricky Gooses backing up, choosing to push the off lane instead of with the Immortal. I think this is going to be a free clear for Wholesome Halfwits. Probably the best case scenario they could have wished for.
Yeah, we do see a re-engage bottom, but I wouldn't. With Reyna down, it's not. They don't have a ton of siege on this bottom keep. As we see Misha getting picked. Oh, we see the Divine Shield coming out onto the Misha to save her life.
You gotta love that. I think we should just alert PETA and just say, like, hey, there's been some high quality carrying here. Not everybody's bad.
Yeah, I don't know if it's worth it, like an 80-second cooldown for 0.25 of a kill. But I like the intentions of no one left behind.
Wholesome Halfwits is rushing to try to engage before Tricky Gooses gets 16. They end up not getting there in time for the camp, so they decide not to engage. I think this is, well, here they go. We see the pull and the silence on the Li Ming. She goes, but she doesn't get secured by the stun. Planet Cracker goes out to really no value. And we see both teams kind of disengage, even with Phoenix positioning kind of aggressive. We see another pull and a silence from the Alarak. He's going to die pretty much immediately, although that's going to turn with a follow-up kill on the Wise, on the Lunara. And, oh, the bear just barely makes it out. We see the push going to kind of peel for Valkymer. Duck is slept and out of position. Kind of set up for the Ming there a little bit with Tyrael kind of positioning. We see the pull and the silence again from the Alarak, using sort of as a peel for Duck. And that swap, really nice styling on the side of Artanis. They're going to try to put that damage out on our Raynor, but it's not quite enough to actually secure the kill. And both teams are going to walk away 1 kill to 1 kill. Once again, probably the best thing that Wholesome Halfwits going to wish for.
I was about to say, if you're the Gooses, you need to stop fighting right now. Pre-16, no talent advantage. But you do have a 2 structure advantage, so really it's your game to lose, and BOE is a kind of a slow map, and sometimes teams can get a bit antsy. You know that you've been winning team fights, you're like, we want to keep fighting and keep pushing our advantage, but that's giving an avenue for Wholesome Halfwits to get back into the game.
Yeah, I think Wholesome Halfwits, if they're smart, is probably just looking to burn or defend. They could safely defend here. Lanes are pushed into their side, so if they send people to just collect soak for a little bit, we see some soak being lost in bottom lane. That could get them closer to 16. I think their best hope here is to just kind of delay. We see Artanis going to top lane saying, hey, I'm going to catch that wave there. And when they see that, Tricky Gooses is like, all right, let's invade. We see that we have an advantage of 1 and a talent tier advantage. Raynor just putting damage on that Immortal, and Misha going to go ahead and zone there a little bit as the whole team on the side of Wholesome Halfwits sets up to try to defend. A lot of damage out on the Alarak. We see a huge Planet Cracker from the Phoenix. The Duck has to walk through twice, ends up using the shield on himself, with Ming doing a ton of damage trying to secure those kills. Duck ends up going down, giving the reset to the Li Ming, and they're trying to get it on the Bear. We see the Disintegrate going out, the stun's already done. Oh, we see a great pull and a silence from Alarak, who ends up securing the kill. And that's a kill on Li Ming. It ends up being a 1-for-1. But with advantage to Tricky Gooses, because Camp is still pushing top, and they are already farther along in the Immortal. We see another kill going out on Raynor. Alarak being caught really bad out of position. This could have turned it. It went from advantage Tricky Gooses, even though they're going to lose the keep top, to probably an Immortal with a healthy shield to go with it, pushing down whichever lane if Wholesome Halfwits can burn it in time.
Yeah, that was a lot of aggression coming out from Gooses, and it kind of got burned there, and they saved it, but then the fight kept going, and there's 2 more picks came out. But they do have to send Ming back to clear out top here. So it's not going to be the healthiest Immortal you've ever seen, but it should at least get a fort and relieve some of the structure advantage.
Yeah, they were able. Wholesome was able to get 16. They have a third shield on the Immortal. It is a level 17 Immortal, so it's going to be pretty strong in terms of the damage it's putting out. The wall's already gone top. We know that Wholesome is looking to get a ton of value off this Immortal. They know that this is their chance to get back in the game. They may not get this chance again, so they need to get the value while they can.
We see a sneaky rotate bottom. They're going to try and burst down this keep here. And they're going to succeed in doing it. Kind of trading a keep for a fort. Can they back now and save their own keep in time?
Yeah, Wholesome looking to try to engage, ends up using the Judgment on the Lunara, but she uses her medallion to get out. They split for the Planet Cracker, which gets a little bit of damage, but that gets pretty much mitigated by the Uther. I thought we saw Artanis just stay top. He ends up backing instead once he gets the keep, and they're just going to be satisfied, I guess, with the front wall for this Immortal for Wholesome Halfwits. But with 2 keeps lost for this Immortal, it's not what Wholesome Halfwits wanted to be doing during this time.
Yeah, I would have liked Artanis maybe selling out more for the push. You already lost your keep. But you're going to get a fort here. So it is a 2-for-1 structure trade overall, so...
Well, it's a 2-for-2. They got both forts. Wholesome Halfwits got both forts, but Tricky Gooses got both keeps during the fight for the Immortal and then the Immortal push.
Yeah, if we extend it to the entire Immortal phase, then yeah, it's a 2-for-2.
Yeah.
Which is positive for... Actually, I don't know how I feel about that trade. I mean, you avoid a 4-0 structure advantage, which is the outcome. So maybe status quo is fine for Wholesome Halfwits, but they're still down a level. So the level 20 is going to come online first for Gooses, which allows them to really control the map for about a 3 or 4 minute period in which Wholesome Halfwits has to catch up.
Yeah, ultimately, I think we should see Tricky Gooses play the rest of this game very passively. If they just wait during the next Immortal phases, they're able to get their camps, they're able to clear the waves, they're able to see their catapults beat the Wholesome Halfwits. Every other lane catapults being pushed every time. So it's a delay game if Tricky Gooses decides to play this safe, and then the onus is really on Wholesome Halfwits to make something happen, to actually see create the advantage they want to see in this game.
That is not something Gooses has done yet this game, play passively, so we'll see if that happens for the first time. You do have a defensive positioning on these Immortals, so it's an advantage to whoever's defending, having to go to the other team's side of the map to start burning.
Yeah, we see Tricky Gooses knowing they have 20 and then instead choosing to go ahead and just dive the Immortal. Wholesome Halfwits seeing that, saying, hey, okay, we're going to just go ahead and take down as much as we can on the shields on yours and then reevaluate the situation a little bit later. However, that puts an awkward positioning for avoiding team fights from the side of Wholesome Halfwits, as they both just kind of do this awkward dance and say, okay, well, you both will see us, but we're just going to avoid fighting you as much as possible. They look like they're trying to defend, but with the positioning of how this switched around, they're not able to get there in time before most Immortals burn the pull, and the silence goes out on the Artanis. Artanis ends up using his blind, and we see Darker Bite going on the lean on Wise. We see Judgment go out, but Medallion is used, and not much value from the material. Blocking field goes out. They're saving this, but what is left to save? We see Hyperion getting that last little bit of damage, probably leaving only around 500. Ends up being around 538 health. For their Immortals, so I don't know what they're going to do to defend. They're going to have Artanis go ahead and get a little bit more damage out, but instead just deigns to soak, tries to get 20, says, hey, we just need to have an even fight. We can't have them 20 advantages. Ming caught out of position, gets stunned, gets a lot of damage from Wise, ends up going down, and the pull goes out on Phoenix, and that is really crushing. I don't want to call it too early, but unless something drastic happens, yeah, with a third kill, that's got to be game for Tricky Gooses.
We saw quite an interesting situation there where neither team knew which side they were on or what their core was on because they were completely flipped. Really like forced into a tough position there. Wholesome Halfwits was because they were down 20, but they had to make something happen. And really, the Gooses played it correctly. They didn't go for a fight, and they forced the Halfwits to awkwardly half engage them and then half defend. And there wasn't a full measure anyway, and then it's hard to win a 5v5 when you're not fully committed to whatever the plan is.
Yeah, well, Goose's positioned for a fight. They attacked, and I think the best thing that Wholesome Halfwits could have done was to actually fight them down 19 to 20 with their Immortal underneath them and said, hey, the stuns are going to be what it's going to be. But we didn't see that. We saw them just avoiding it, and that's game number 2 for a domination for Tricky Gooses over Wholesome Halfwits.
So we see a kind of, I would say a dominant performance there from Gooses. You know, I think they got situations they liked. They got team comps that they seemed confident in. We'll see in an interview hopefully shortly with Duck as I message out to him. And then that also has implications for the standings. I think the Gooses now arguably are back in the playoff hunt when it looked like they were out early in the season. And Wholesome Halfwits is looking pretty unlikely unless they do some second half of the season heroics.
Yeah, instead of picking up a game or two, Tricky Gooses is going for the let's lose all our games or win all our games and getting 0 wins or domination. So with this, it brings them up to 6 points. It puts them really securely in the middle of the pack with more games, granted, played than most of the rest of the teams, but I think it helps give them the advantage over, a lot of other teams that maybe have really hard matchups coming up and could very well, like you said, secure the playoff matches for Tricky Gooses later on in the season. We see a couple of the teams underneath them who have some games left to play, but with this advantage, it's looking better for them. Unfortunately, on the flip side, it's looking bleaker on the side of Wholesome Halfwits, who know that they have some winning to do in their future if they're going to secure those that position in the playoffs.
All right, we have the captain of Tricky Gooses waiting for us in the NGS lobby, so I'm gonna hop over there and
Great,
start the
let's do
interview.
it.
All right, we are joined by Duck from the Tricky Gooses. Hello, Duck.
How you doing?
We're doing good. That was a fun match, and I think you are probably feeling even better right now as you get your second domination of the season.
Yeah, we gotta make up for some lost ground still.
So going into that, had you done a lot of research into Wholesome Halfwits, and you felt pretty good about that matchup, or what was your thoughts going into this?
Well, since part of them were Die for Vision, we were familiar with some of those players, and then he's an ex-player from our team. Bailed on us and went to other teams, so we knew a lot about him. Knew that he likes his Ana. He was really confident he wasn't going to play Ana versus us because he didn't want us to pull out Butcher on him, but we didn't even need to, didn't want to.
There you go.
All right, well, let's go to game 1 here. We see you choose to go to Cursed Hollow. We've casted 2 matches of yours now in which you have pretty dominant victories on Cursed Hollow. Would you say that's your favorite map right now? You like the macro ability of it? Like, what do you see going into Cursed Hollow?
I think it's more a Swiss Army knife of maps. We can just kind of gauge how we feel versus a team, what they're going to run for the night, and kind of see an idea of how they want to play out the matches from it. And everything's viable on it, so I like it for that reason.
We saw an aggressive comp, an aggressive early game comp come out of Wholesome Halfwits on Cursed Hollow game 1, and they took a strategy that you all have taken in the past, which is, hey, let's try to pick an early game team and win the first 3 objectives, and then create a situation that the other team just can't dig themselves out of with a great map advantage. And it ended up not working out for them. What were you guys thinking in the draft to kind of mitigate their ability to win early and to create a good situation for your team?
We were kind of curious with their tank picks, what they take, because they knew we had a sub in for tonight with Valkamir, and they seemed to target ban him a bit at the start. His philosophy was great, ban me, let you guys play whatever you want, and it kind of changed our whole strategy when we were able to get Greymane. So we just rotated to let me play like a full flex where I could fill in any spot, and then I liked the Gul'dan to help keep waves clear and put pressure on wherever we wanted, and he feels strong versus Diablo specifically.
Yeah, it seems like you picked an early game, a team that ended up being pretty early game as well to match the comp from Wholesome Halfwits, with the Thrall doing fine, being a good late game, but fine early game. Greymane doing great early game damage, and same from the Gul'dan. So it seemed to work out really well as you all kind of pressed that through level 10.
It felt like we'd just get a little bit harder scale than them, but stay about even through the early and mid game, and it seemed good enough for us.
Great.
All right, we have map 2 going to BOE, Battlefield of Eternity. Definitely, it started off a draft that looked typical for BOE. Sorry, we saw the Reyna come out, we saw the Artanis come out, and then the draft just went off the rails, and both teams picked stuff that was not expected for BOE. Traditionally, we saw the Tyrael coming out for Wholesome Halfwits. We see the Rexar Uther frontline coming out for you guys. Was that the plan all the way starting at the starting of the draft, or was it more of a reactive thing as neither team seemed to want to take a meta tank early?
We had a 2-lane map strat that was pretty much just focused on Rexar Uther, no other frontline, and then 3 DPS, or at least Bruiser and 2 DPS, and kind of go from there. We weren't sure what map we would get since they banned Braxis Hanamura, and we intentionally avoided BOE all of last season. Them going there was a great surprise because we really wanted that map, and it worked out well for us. We weren't sure exactly what we wanted to run, but we figured we can get Reyna early and then Lunara versus the Artanis matchup. Just that double race we thought would be scary. They surprised us with how fast they raced, though.
Yeah,
their race was really good.
Yeah, it didn't look like it on paper, and then all of a sudden it was like, holy cow, that whole Immortals half dead.
Yeah. I was intrigued because, as I was saying throughout the cast, that if with an Uther as a solo heal and as part of the tank situation, you really wanted to see from Wholesome Halfwits a kind of a soft engage and just kind of burn the health pools across the board and reduce your mana, and kind of mitigate your ability to get those burst picks. But you guys were able to consistently land those and really kind of carry that win with that team comp. So props to you guys. And was that kind of your plan with the Alarak going in, is like, hey, let's secure quick kills, let's capitalize on advantages, and then let's carry that advantage through as best we can?
Yeah, we were hoping to just use the Alarak to make sure any stun from the Bear or Uther would be a kill, and then just kind of snowball from there a little bit. And then the fact that we could leave Rexar and Lunara as a solo lane in either lane and then rotate as a 3-man, I felt like we could get ahead of them sometimes. Sometimes didn't work. We ran into them in the middle a couple times. Screwed up some rotations, but honestly, I was shocked with the Tyrael last pick, and I think that threw me for a loop. I didn't know exactly what they were doing until the first time they popped it with their ults. And then I was like, well, that's fine. I have Divine Shield. I didn't have to use it on that necessarily, but I took Lens and Divine Shield for it and thought, oh, I'm not worried about it later in the game.
Yeah.
Late in the game, we saw you already had a structure advantage. You got a full health immortal or a pretty healthy one, and you split off and pushed the off lane from it. I think we've seen you do that before, if I'm not mistaken, or maybe I'm thinking of another team. But what's the reasoning there of not going with the immortal and choosing the other lane to push in?
Well, in that case, I think we already had the bottom one kind of softened up,
Yeah.
and the time that it takes the immortal to spawn and get there would have let them just push out and get rid of any pressure on the bottom. So I made the call to have us all 5 rotate down there, and then we could just disengage if we wanted. And if they wasted too many ults, we'd have plenty of time to rotate up and help the top immortal. Instead, I think it ended up just being soften both keeps for a double keep later. But I felt like it was just best to keep pressure on both lanes to keep them split.
Right, I kind of see it as a high risk, high reward because you have the potential to get both keeps in that play.
Yeah.
But then you also have the potential. I think maybe Volcoma got picked and it kind of neutered the push a little bit.
Yeah, and that was us, playing with a sub where I missed some of the communication there. I didn't realize he was tanking shots. Otherwise, I had heals. I could have put him on him. I had Divine Shield. I could have threw it on it, but I was too far forward and didn't see him taking the shots. Didn't hear it in time. That's on me.
Right. Well, yeah. I wasn't trying to call him out anything. I would actually say.
Oh no, I don't say that. I'm just saying that's totally my fault there.
Well, we weren't trying to call you out either. Great interview, you got called out, but it was really awesome. No, you guys did great, and it ended up working super well later as you were able to just kind of play more passively and let that map advantage kind of carry you through the rest of the game.
Yeah, it felt good.
So yeah, we'll wrap up the interview now. I think we're kind of a good luck charm because we've live casted your 2 wins now, I believe, on the season.
Yeah.
So maybe for the fairness, we'll have to stop picking up your cast. But
we'll just let you schedule our matches if you'd like. That sounds good.
Sure, that's another option. I'll leave it to you for some shoutouts, and then we'll wrap it up.
Shout out to you guys. Great practice. Great scrims versus you guys. We love you guys casting as well. Shout out to Wholesome Halfwits. I love playing with multiples of those people on that team. Shout out to Valkamir. He really came through as a sub for us here. He's stepping up 2 divisions to sub in. He's in Division C West. So he knew he'd have a harder time here, but he was up for the challenge, and I think he performed great.
Totally.
Awesome.
Yeah, really great.
All right, Duck, thanks for joining us, and hope to cast you again sometime this season.
Thank you.
All right, well, as this cast comes to the end, this has been NGS Season 10, Division A East. Tricky Gooses vs. Wholesome Halfwits. Gooses taking a 2-0 victory, putting themselves back in the playoff hunt, and putting Wholesome Halfwits on the ropes, seeing if they can survive the rest of this AE season. This has been Canadian Corner, Liddell as your caster, and Feldroff as your co-caster. Last words, Feldroff.
Oh, say, can you see? Yeah, once again, U.S. correspondent Feldroff. Thanks to our superior northern brethren, Liddell, and the Canadians. And it's been fun. Thanks for the great games, and look forward to casting the next games as well.
All right, thanks for joining us.
Thanks, folks.